educator with Janome Canada, and today I'm bringing you a really fun project, a Christmas cracker. These Christmas crackers feature stitches included on my M7 Continental, but with 2 new stitches that I created, and I'll show you how to create using Stitch Composer. As well as we use the ribbon sewing guide to embellish our ribbon to tie them closed. And we will use the rolled hem 6mm D1 foot. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a quick and easy project with stunning results. For my festive project, I wanted a couple different stitches that weren't included on my M7. So I decided to use the Stitch Composer. The Stitch Composer is part of the PC application pack that comes with our M7. And it gives you the opportunity to make your own stitches. So if for some reason, like this project, there was just a couple things that were missing. One was a reindeer and one was a classic Christmas tree shape. So I'm going to show you how to use Stitch Composer to do that for yourself. Now, I don't consider myself a major artist. So what I'm going to do is show you how to bring in a background picture to kind of copy off of. So I'm going to go into this tab here at the top, the view, it's in the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to select my backdrop image. When I select it, I can add any kind of JPEG or picture. And so here I'm going to select my tree and I'm going to open it up. Now, when you're making these stitches, you have to remember we're dealing in millimeters here, so it's really tiny. So I'm going to try to make this tree a lot bigger. So I'm going to drag it this way, which makes it nice and tall. I want it to fit on this graph area. You want to fit within those bounds. But also, if we're dealing with from here to here is 1 millimeter, then these little pieces, they're super tiny. So I'm going to make this a lot wider, and that's going to give us a wider tree to work off of. And once we have a shape that's kind of where we want it, and I'm going to show you, I actually make it a little bit more exaggerated than this, but it's a good basis to go on. So when I like the shape of it, I'm going to click this button up here, the lock tab, and I'm going to lock it, and it takes away that box to drag. And I'm going to go back over to home. The first thing you have to do is to designate your start point. So your start point has to be on this 0 millimeter axis. So basically your sewing machine is going to stitch this way. So it needs to start along a line. And because I have this at the bottom, the tree down here, I'm going to designate our start stitch right in this corner here. And once I've done that, it knows that's where the start. And now I'm just going to go in and click on all my points, traveling from left to right. Well, and back and forth a bit. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to simply trace the shape. And it's as simple as clicking on it. And if I make a wrong mistake, I click over there by accident, I can go to undo, and that brings it to the last point, and then you continue on. At this point, you don't have to be completely exact, just close enough, because we're going to do a little bit of changing right when we're done. Okay, so I finished my shape, but since we're sewing from left to right, we don't want the next tree to start on top of this. So I'm going to clear the area and do my last point. Let's do it right about here. So that is our tree. And if I decided to take that and then write it to file, which means I'm going to save it on my flash drive to take it to my sewing machine, I just put my thumb drive in there and it'll probably pop up. It likes to pop up on me. There it goes. I'm going to clear that. And so if I go here to write a design, it's going to come up here with this little attention, and it tells you the maximum stitch length is 5 millimeters, and I've exceeded it. And over here on the side, you can see I've gone up to 9.8, I've gone up to 15. So that's too big of a stitch for the machine. But the beauty of this program is when I click OK, it changes all of them for me. And now it's telling me that I have not designated an endpoint, which is fair enough. And I click OK. So now I have some issues here. For some reason, they've given me this stitch in the middle of here. So the first thing I'm going to do is up on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to the point and move selection, and I'm going to take this stitch and I'm going to drag it back down to the bottom line. And now it's in a spot where it should be. And then let's deal with the start. We have the start designated, but we haven't really designated our end. So we're going to go over to point 19, which is our end, and we're going to go up here and I'm going to select our lock stitch. And that is going to end our stitch. And now it has a green endpoint here. But there's just a couple other little problems with our design. These little indents here still are not big enough. So I'm going to still have my point and move on, and I'm going to drag them into the middle a little bit closer. It's kind of very exaggerated, but when it stitches out, you'll see that it's not as exaggerated as you would think, because we're dealing in such a small scale. And then at this point too, while I'm dragging those middle points in, I also like to drag those outside points a little bit wider, just to give your Christmas tree a little bit of more of a Christmas tree shape when it stitches out. And the handy grid lines, you can keep things nice and symmetrical. I also enjoy a little bit of a wonkiness, so if everything is a little bit off, I'm okay with that too. So that is our Christmas tree shape, and if I wanted to go over here and I'm going to turn off the background image, and now you can see the light blue lines are what's going to stitch out. And also a cool feature is over here on the right hand side, we have this preview. So I can press play, which is this triangle button, and it will start to stitch it out, kind of giving you an idea of what it's going to look like side by side when you go to stitch on your machine. All right, and then when I want to save it, I go back to home and I write the design to a file. I'm going to open it. If you want to, this was a little bit confusing for me. So you have to have it on a thumb drive, or that's what I call them, a thumb drive, you know, the USB drive. I'm going to rename it. I have a bunch of stitches in here. I fiddled around with the reindeer, and I actually got a really cute reindeer, which we will see. And then I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to rename this Final Tree, just so it's a new name. So when you rename it, I'm on my jump drive and it opens up an ORD, it makes an ORD file for you. And then I made a new thing called Stitches, a new file, and I saved it in there. But to get it to save to your thumb drive, you have to click this red arrow. That confused me at first. I was looking for like the save button, but you can see it makes sense. There's a computer, it's going to save it to this. So we're going to click on that and it's saved to your thumb drive. Now that we've saved our stitch to our thumb drive, we are going to pull it up on our machine. So on the right hand side of the M7, close to the bottom is a slot for your thumb drive. You simply put it in, and then to access the files, we're going to go into this little file. And then you can save things to your sewing machine. But we are definitely on this thumb drive, and I've saved everything in the stitches folder. Once that opens up, you can see all the different stitches on my thumb drive, and we're going to use the Final Tree because that's the one we made together. And it pulls it up into this category. So if you're ever looking for the ones that you've already saved on your file, I'm just going to go back to home, and then we're going to go into this design here. And then we're going to look for the Creative Stitches section. So when we click on that, it'll bring us back. And you'll see here, I have this adorable reindeer that I made. I went through, there's many different versions because it was figuring out how to make it big enough and with enough space. So you'll see this is the first one I made, and it's super tiny. It didn't stitch out much at all. And let's say that one I don't want anymore and I want to remove it. I simply click on the trash can button, and then I click on that stitch, and it'll ask if I want to delete the created stitches, and I say okay, and now it's gone off of my machine. It didn't work anyway. So you'll see here that I have a couple different trees. This is the first one I made. It was cute, but it didn't have enough definition. And so then I slowly increased the definition on it to get a stitch out that I liked. And we are going to try to stitch out the final one here. So what we're going to stitch onto is I just have a scrap piece of fabric. It's a quilter's cotton. And then I'm also going to put this piece of stabilizer behind it. When I'm doing decorative stitches, I like a stabilizer to hold my fabric flat and to keep it from bunching up. Stabilizer is really great. We have a Madeira stabilizer starter pack, and it comes with a bunch of different stabilizers in it, 12 different ones, 4 of each different type. And there's a tearaway type, a wash away, and a cutaway. So I also used for this one, when I was practicing, a wash away, and I really liked that because the one that I used was Madeira Avalon Fix, and it's cool because it's sticky, and so it would stick right to the back of your fabric and then pulls off, and the wash away, when you wash it, it will dissolve. This one we have to tear out, and it still sticks to the fabric enough that it will work for this purpose. Okay. So we've selected the final one, and I'm going to bring you down so you can watch it stitch out. Okay, here we are. And so I have my fabric and my stabilizer. I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to start stitching. And you can see that it is using that entire zigzag path to make, this is as tall as you can make your stitch. So after a few have done, I'm going to stop, and if we have a stop last stitch button. If I press that, then it will finish this last stitch for me and then do a lock stitch. And then I'm going to cut it to show you what we've made. And there we go. It's a cute little Christmas tree. And it has really good definition. I really love it. And I like how this right down here at the bottom is a little bit open. It makes, I don't know, it's cool that you can make exactly the stitch that you want. Now that we've loaded a new stitch or two into our machine and we are ready to get stitching. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple things before we get working on that. This here is our border guide foot. It's kind of an interesting foot. It's clear all the way through, and there's a lot of different markings on it. And this is to allow you to line up borders side by side so that you get everything nice and even. So you have lots of options. You can run stitches between the middle of here, or you can line up the middle of a stitch with a line, plus you have these lines in the front here. It's a really useful foot when you're trying to get borders on something straight, or if you're putting edging around like a decorative napkin or something like that. So this is a really cool foot. So I have this piece of cotton that I've cut to, 7 inches wide by 13 inches long. And this is going to be the fabric that goes over our Christmas cracker tube, which we're going all out here. We're using a toilet paper roll. If you have another tube that you would like to use, go ahead, but we all know that we have these lying around the house. At least I do in my house. So we have that, we have it cut to the right size, but what I've added here, which is kind of hard to see because I'm white on white, is a stabilizer. Madeira makes an amazing stabilizer set. So this is a starter set, and it comes with 12 premium stabilizers. There's a tearaways, there's washaways, and there's cutaways. this is a great starter set if you are exploring stabilizers for the first time. I use them a lot. They really help make everything come out crisply. Because we're using decorative stitches today, often while you're sewing decorative stitches, the fabric will get sucked up inside, so it kind of squishes together. The stabilizer stops that from happening. Here you can do it easily, here it's not so easy. So what I've used here is one of our cool stabilizers. It's a Madeira Avalon Fix, and everything that comes in your stabilizer pack is labeled so you know exactly what you're using. There's no guesswork. So this one is a wash away stabilizer, and you look at it and you're like, what's with that? So this is a piece of it, and on the back is this white fabric, and all you do is peel it, and then this white part here is sticky, and that's why I like it, because it's no muss, no fuss. Stuck it down on the back, I centered it. I have a crease here that lines up with the front crease, and now that is our stabilizer section. I've decided you can do what you want. This is your design when you get there, but I've made that strip the exact width of the toilet paper roll. I didn't want the stitching to go out the edges. I just wanted it in the middle center section. Now it's time to pick out our decorative stitches, and really the sky is the limit. There are so many stitches on this machine that you can really have some fun planning out different arrangements and layouts of the different stitches. So what I would like to do is I want to start, there's this really cool snowflake. So as you scroll through, you'll see all these different stitches. Some of them are not something you'd really want on something decorative, but so many, look at these ones. So many of them can be used in so many unique ways. So I know we have a snowflake. These ones, I like to use 21 here a lot and 22. But let's see, I know we have a snowflake that's very prominent. And so it is, look, there's just so many stitches. Right. Oh, there it is, number 52. So we're going to select the 52, and you're going to see that you can see them lined up here. And that's what it's going to look like when you stitch out. So now I have my border guide foot on my machine, and I have the middle crease of my fabric all ready to go. And so I'm going to use this middle guide to line up and sew the length of my fabric. So I like to start with the needle in, my foot down, and then we're just going to start stitching. We're just going to let it sew until it's right to the edge. All right, and then I'm going to cut that. I'm not stopping and doing anything special with the ends because this is going to be folded in eventually. So next we can line up our next line, and I'm going to select the tree that we had made earlier. So I'm going to bring that up, and we're going to use the lines on our foot to line up this next line. So we know that the tree is going to use the entire width of this, so we can gauge how close we want it to the snowflake. So we know it's going to take that whole width, and then I think I'm going to run this line of stitches, the snowflakes, in between these two red lines here. So let's set it up at the end. Take that out. And I'm going to put the needle into the fabric, put my foot down. So I have the snowflakes are going to go right between these two red lines, and I'm going to start sewing. I've finished my first line of trees and I'm going to go on to sew the next line of trees. So there's a couple options here. I can turn the whole fabric around and sew in the opposite direction, or if you're working with something where you can't flip and go into a different direction, you can use this button here. This is the mirror image button, and now our trees are going to face the other way. So it's going to really look like they're facing into the middle. And that way we're moving the stitching all in the same direction. And if you're working with a piece that you can't turn around, if it's something larger, then this is a great way of making things look like they're supposed to be that way. Because we've mirror imaged the trees, now we're going to line up the snowflakes in this other side of your foot so that you will have everything in the right spot. So I'm going to put the needle in, my foot down, and I'm going to start sewing. I've finished stitching out all the stitches that I wanted on my Christmas cracker. Look at how cute those little Christmas trees and reindeers are. They're so much fun. Next up, we're going to finish the edges of our Christmas cracker. And to do that, we're going to hem it. But we're going to use my favorite way of hemming, which is the rolled hem foot. Many of our machines come with a standard rolled hem foot, but today I'm going to use our D1 foot, which is this one here. The D1 foot is a 6mm rolled hem. So it's a little bit deeper than our traditional rolled hem. And I really like using it because it gives it a really nice finish, but it's a little bit easier to tackle corners because we're going to have 4 corners on this because of how deep it is. On the M7 Continental, we have a great little feature called the applications menu. And this menu is basically a lot of your common used feet, accessories, and different techniques built into the machine so that it sets up everything automatically for you. So to get to our applications menu, you're going to simply select our little t-shirt on your screen, and it's going to bring up a different menu with a whole bunch of different techniques. So we're going to go into the rolled hem, and it gives you the straight stitch and zigzag. This is with the standard D foot that comes with your machine, but we're going to select the 4mm and 6mm, and this just sets up the machine perfectly for you so we can just get to sewing. I've attached the D1 foot to my machine, and now we're going to get your fabric ready to blind hem. I have the wrong side of the fabric up because it's going to roll the fabric to the back. And I want to start by finger pressing over one time the depth of your hem, and then a second time, and just giving that a nice little press with your fingers. That's going to allow you to start your hem without it in the curl. Feeding it through the curl at the beginning is a little bit tricky, so this is my little hack for it. So now that you have that folded, you're going to insert it under the foot, and you're going to make sure that you're lining up with this edge of the foot here, not the outside edge, this little edge here. And once you have it under your needle, you can insert your needle, and then you're going to stitch forward 2 stitches. And now you're going to try to pop this fabric into the curl. And often it does it pops, you might not have heard that, it pops in really easily. And now all you have to do is you have to guide your fabric in. So you're going to keep because it's a deeper curve, I like to fold the fabric a little bit gently over and then keep it lined up with that edge, and you sew. So I'm going to sew probably about a 1/4 inch from the end and then stop. I'm going to cut my threads there. The reason why I stopped early is because I need to be able to start my next rolled hem edge, and when you have it tight there, it's really bulky. So now I open this up a little bit, and I'm going to snip off just a little bit on the inside here so I'm folding less fabric. And so I cut off just a little chunk. And then I'm ready to start the next edge. So I do the exact same as I did before. I fold it once, give it a finger press, I fold it again, give it another finger press, and then I'm going to insert it under my foot and start again. I'm going to sew forward 2 stitches and then pop it into the foot. And then you're set to go, and you can finish all your edges just following that technique. The last step of creating the Christmas cracker is to add a decorative stitch to your ribbon that you will use to tie the ends. To do this, we are using the ribbon stitch guide. It comes in a blister pack for your machine. And on the blister pack on the back and on the inside, it folds out and it will tell you all the instructions and what components you need with what machines. What I mean by that is it comes with a thin rubber pad and a thick rubber pad and a short screw and a long screw. So on the M7, I'm going to use the thin pad and I'm going to line it up with my screw hole up here. And then I'm going to use the short screw and I'm going to attach the ribbon guide to my machine. And once it's attached, this is going to allow us to adjust where it lines up with our foot. And I'm going to just line it up and then tighten that up. These 2 screws here allow us to open our ribbon guide to accommodate larger sizes of ribbon. And the clear guide slides back so you can put your ribbon in easily, and then this will keep everything nice and flat. So I'm using a really nice red ribbon, grosgrain, is it a grosgrain or a satin ribbon, I should say. And one thing that's going to help a lot is this thin, semi-translucent piece of stabilizer. Now this is a Madeira Avalon wash away stabilizer, which is really neat because after you've done sewing your stitch on it, you can simply dissolve it in water and then you don't have to worry about picking out parts. You can also use, earlier I used a tear away stabilizer, you could use that as well, and then you just have to tear away the paper. But I think the wash away will work a little bit better. So I'm going to line those up together. The stabilizer just helps your stitches come out really nicely. I'm going to move the clear guide off to the side, place this in, and then I'm going to close the guide so that it fits my ribbon. And both sides move in at the same time, so you don't have to worry about it being uneven. And then once it's in place, you're going to tighten it up and put your clear guide back in. And now you're going to, I'm going to move that guide again. You're going to put it under your presser foot, guide it under to start, and put the guide in place, and then you're ready to start stitching. You might want to try out a couple different stitches just to pick one that works well with the ribbon and gives you the look that you're trying to achieve. And just to show you what we have is the nice ribbon all stitched out, and then you have a clear film on the back, but you can simply dissolve that in water and it'll be completely gone, and then let it dry. And you're ready to tie the ends of your Christmas cracker. Once you have all your parts finished, it's time to assemble your Christmas cracker. You're going to take your toilet paper tube or whatever tube you're using, line it up on the back, and this is the time to insert all your cool fun treats and little toys into the middle. And then you're going to wrap your cracker, your fabric around your cracker and tie up each end. So I've sealed off my ribbon with just a little heat. I use the flame from a candle so that the ends don't come unraveled. And I tie it around twice, And then I repeat that on the other side with the other ribbon. And this way you can use these crackers over and over again for years to come. And there you have it. You have a reusable, very cute, one-of-a-kind Christmas cracker to add to your holiday table.